Okay, now that is the word. That is the word. Texting, flirting like that. Kicking it, talking. We are not dating. When we were in the studio, you said that you and her were just kicking it. Okay, so that is the word? That is the word? Texting, flirting, kicking it, talking. We are not dating. But listen, I told you, I do not like getting caught up in drama with my kid's mother. Do not call me your baby mama. Do not do that. You do not refer to me as just the mother of your kids. I am saying she had my kids, but I am not going to be in the middle of her and someone else. Nobody likes being dragged into things. And you were talking about me to her. You blocked her after me, then you became cool with her again. So now she wants to know, why did you block her? Look, I am not even in this mess, but you know what, Scrap? I will tell you this. You were wrong because you were flirting with her for a long time. You said I was flirting? I am saying it. And let me make this clear, I do not care who Scrap flirts with. He is free to flirt with whoever he wants. But let me say one thing, a man who cannot make up his mind is always going to be lost. And now, he is acting like nothing happened. I am getting secondhand embarrassment for Amy. This is the third man who has publicly denied ever being with her. Girl, maybe you should just keep things low-key because, clearly, these men do not want to go public with you. So, hold on. You were interested in him, but he was not interested in you? Is that what you were saying? I do not know. I was interested. But I never dated Amy. We have never dated. Hanging out is not dating, guys. Amy, you're saying you never dated Scrappy, but you have been saying you did. Scrappy got muscles, he is big, he is fine. I am single. He is single. We have been talking. That is all. Wait, you're not Scrappy, are you? No, I am not, but we have been on a couple of dates. Oh, for real? So it is real now. Bambi sat at the edge of her bed, gripping her phone tightly. The screen glowed with Amy Luciani's latest Instagram post. Baby Scrappy on the way. God is good. The photo showed Amy glowing, her hand resting on her baby bump, while Lil Scrappy stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Bambi's chest tightened. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. No, 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 she whispered, her voice shaking. This cannot be real. Her phone slipped from her hands onto the bed as she buried her face in her palms. Her mind raced, betrayal, heartbreak, broken promises. How could he do this? After everything they had been through, how could he get someone else pregnant? Just then, her best friend Kendra burst through the door. Kendra walked in, carrying a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout. Girl, I brought backup. We are going to get through this together. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Bambi's tear-streaked face. Bambi, what is wrong? What happened? Bambi could not even speak. She just handed Kendra her phone, the Instagram post still on the screen. Kendra's eyes widened as she read the caption. Oh, hell no. Scrappy did not get this girl pregnant. Tell me this is fake, Bambi. Please. It is not fake, Bambi choked out, her voice breaking. It is real. He is having a baby with her. After everything we have been through. After all the times he swore he was done with these side chicks. Now he is starting a family with her. Kendra sat beside Bambi, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. I am so sorry, Bambi. I know how much you have been trying to make things work with him. But this is next-level disrespect. You do not deserve this. Bambi wiped her tears, but they kept coming. I thought we were finally in a good place. We have been going to therapy, trying to rebuild our marriage. And now this. How am I supposed to compete with a baby, Kendra? How am I supposed to move past this? Kendra sighed, squeezing Bambi's hand. You do not have to compete with anyone, Bambi. You are his wife. You have stood by him through everything. If he cannot see your worth, maybe it is time to let him go. Bambi shook her head, her mind spinning. I do not know if I can, Kendra. I love him. I have always loved him. But this feels like the final straw. That night, Bambi sat alone in the living room. The TV played, but she was not watching. Her mind kept going back to Scrappy and Amy. She thought about all the times she had forgiven him. All the times he promised he was done with the drama. And now there was a baby that would forever tie him to Amy. The sound of the front door opening snapped her out of her thoughts. Scrappy walked in, his usual confidence gone. He froze when he saw her sitting there, her face streaked with dried tears. "Bambi," he started, his voice careful. "Do not," she interrupted, holding up a hand. "Just do not." "I saw the post, Scrappy. I know about the baby." Scrappy sighed, running a hand over his face. "Bambi, it is not what you think. Me and Amy, it is complicated." "Complicated?" Bambi let out a bitter laugh, standing up. "You got her pregnant, Scrappy. What is complicated about that? It is pretty simple to me." "I did not plan for this to happen," Scrappy said, his voice rising. "It was a mistake, okay? But now there is a baby involved, and I have to step up. You know how I feel about being a father." Bambi crossed her arms. "And what about being a husband, Scrappy? What about us? You keep saying you want to fix this, but how can we move forward when you are out here starting families with other women?" Scrappy hesitated, his shoulders slumping. "I do not know, Bambi. I do not have all the answers. But I do know that I love you. You are my wife. I do not want to lose you." Bambi shook her head as fresh tears spilled down her face. "You say that, but your actions say something else. Every time I think we are moving forward, you do something like this. I cannot keep doing this, Scrappy. I cannot keep getting hurt." Scrappy reached for her, but she stepped back. "Bambi, please. Do not shut me out. We can get through this. We have been through worse." "Have we?" Bambi's voice trembled. "Because this feels like the worst. This feels like the end." The next day, Bambi made a decision. She could not just sit back and let Amy act like she had a happy little family with her husband. She showed up at Amy's apartment, her heart pounding. When Amy opened the door, she looked surprised, but not shocked. "Bambi," Amy said, crossing her arms. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," Bambi said, keeping her voice steady. "About you, Scrappy, and this baby." Amy sighed and stepped aside to let her in. "Look, I know this is messy, but it is what it is. Scrappy and I have a connection. And now we are having a baby. I am not trying to hurt you, but I am not going to apologize for living my life." Bambi clenched her fists, trying to stay calm. "You think this is just about you living your life? You are having a baby with my husband, Amy. My husband. Do you even care about the pain you are causing?" Amy shrugged, her tone unapologetic. "Scrappy is a grown man. He made his choices. If you are mad at anyone, be mad at him." Bambi stared at her, disbelief written all over her face. "You are unbelievable. This is not some kind of game. This is my life, my marriage, and you are tearing it apart." Bambi's voice shook with anger. Amy smirked, clearly enjoying the drama. "Maybe your marriage was not as strong as you thought it was." Bambi had heard enough. She turned around and walked out, her heart heavy, but her mind made up. She could not keep fighting for a man who did not value her or their marriage. That night, Bambi sat down with Scrappy for what she knew would be their final conversation. "I cannot do this anymore," she said, her voice firm. "I have given you chance after chance, but this is too much. I deserve better, Scrappy. I deserve someone who will respect me and our marriage." Scrappy looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. "Bambi, please. Do not give up on us. We can fix this." Bambi shook her head as tears ran down her face. "No, Scrappy. We cannot. Some things are just too broken to fix." As she walked away, she felt a mix of heartbreak and relief. She did not know what the future held, but one thing was certain: she was done. Done with the drama. Done with the lies. Done with Scrappy. Even Scrappy's closest friends feared that this was the end of the road for the Atlanta rap legend. But in a shocking twist, Scrappy was showing signs of a recovery that no one could explain. Doctors who had given grim predictions were now in disbelief. "We have never seen anything like this," one of them admitted. Just days ago, Scrappy was clinging to life. His condition was getting worse, and doctors and family members had started preparing for the worst. Hospital staff said his loved ones were expecting bad news. Maddie was convinced it was divine intervention. Bambi, on the other hand, was still trying to process everything. After almost losing him, she was caught in an emotional storm. Fans were desperate for answers. What had really happened in that hospital room? What was the first thing Scrappy said when he woke up? Was this the start of a full recovery or just a temporary miracle before something worse? This story was far from over. A few days earlier, Scrappy had been lying motionless in his hospital bed, hooked up to machines. His condition was getting worse by the hour. Doctors had already warned the family to prepare for the worst. The rapper, once known for his raw energy and powerful presence, was now fighting for his life. And it did not seem like he was going to win. Mama D was devastated. She had not left the hospital since Scrappy was admitted. She paced the hallways, whispering prayers and blaming everyone she could think of. Meanwhile, Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had a more complicated reaction. She still cared for him, but their messy history made things difficult. Some people whispered that she had not even wanted to come to the hospital, that friends and family had pressured her to be there. But no matter what had happened between them, she was still heartbroken over what was happening. "My son is a fighter, and I refuse to believe he will not pull through," Mama D said, her voice filled with frustration. Then, something unbelievable happened. At first, it was the smallest movement, so small that nobody noticed. A nurse thought she saw Scrappy's fingers twitch. She almost ignored it, thinking it was just a reflex. But then it happened again. This time, she was not the only one who saw it. "Did you see that?" one nurse whispered to another. Before they could even process what was happening, they rushed to his bedside, calling for the doctors. The man they had all but given up on was waking up. Mama D, who had been sitting in the corner with her head in her hands, looked up and gasped. "Scrappy," she whispered, as if afraid to hope. Scrappy's lips parted, but no words came out at first. His eyes moved around the room, confused. Doctors rushed in, checking his vitals. "Can you hear me? Do you know where you are?" one of them asked. Then, before anyone else could say another word, he finally spoke. "Mama." His voice was weak but clear. With that one word, Mama D broke down in tears. She ran to his side, gripping his hand tightly, afraid he would slip away again. "Oh, baby, you scared me half to death," she cried. Meanwhile, Bambi stood frozen, watching everything unfold. Bambi stood near the doorway, tears running down her face. She was completely speechless. Even Scrappy's closest friends feared this could be the end for the Atlanta rap legend. But in a shocking twist, he was showing signs of a recovery that no one could explain. Doctors who had once given hopeless predictions were now in disbelief. "We have never seen anything like this before," one of them admitted. Just days ago, Scrappy was barely holding on. His condition was getting worse, and doctors and family members had started preparing for the worst. Hospital insiders said the family was expecting the inevitable until something unbelievable happened. Mama D was certain this was divine intervention. Bambi, on the other hand, was still struggling to process the emotional roller coaster of almost losing him. Fans were desperate for answers. What had happened in that hospital room? What were Scrappy's first words when he opened his eyes? Was this the beginning of his journey to full recovery, or just a temporary miracle before another heartbreaking turn? This story was far from over. A few days earlier, Scrappy had been lying motionless in his hospital bed, connected to machines. His condition was getting worse by the hour. Doctors had already warned the family to prepare for the worst. The rapper, once known for his fire and powerful presence, was now fighting for his life and losing. Mama D had not left the hospital since he was admitted. She paced the hallways, whispering prayers and pointing fingers in frustration. Meanwhile, Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had a more complicated reaction. She still cared for him, but their troubled history made things difficult. Some said she had hesitated to come to the hospital, only showing up after family and friends pushed her to. But once she was there, she was deeply shaken. At one point, she broke down, whispering, "I just want him to be okay." Then, something unbelievable happened. At first, it was a tiny movement, a flicker of his fingers. A nurse noticed but dismissed it as nothing. But then it happened again. This time, she was not the only one who saw it. "Did you see that?" one nurse whispered to another. Within moments, the medical team rushed to his bedside, calling for the doctors. The man they had almost given up on was waking up. In the corner of the room, Mama D, who had been sitting with her head in her hands, suddenly gasped. "Scrappy," she whispered, her voice shaking as if she was afraid to believe it. Scrappy's lips parted, but no words came out at first. His eyes moved around the room, lost and confused. Doctors swarmed him, checking his vitals and asking urgent questions. "Can you hear us? Do you know where you are?" Then, in a weak but clear voice, he finally spoke. "Mama." At that moment, Mama D burst into tears. She grabbed his hand tightly, afraid to let go. "Oh, baby, you scared me half to death," she sobbed. Across the room, Bambi stood frozen in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. This was not supposed to happen. Scrappy's body had been shutting down. The doctors had already prepared for the worst. But now, here he was, awake, conscious, calling for his mother. One of the doctors, Dr. Reynolds, shook his head in shock. "This is incredible," he muttered, checking the monitors. His vitals were stable, something that should not have been possible. Outside the hospital room, the news spread like wildfire. A nurse, unable to hold back her excitement, texted a friend. Within minutes, social media exploded. Fans waiting outside the hospital, praying and holding signs, erupted into cheers. "Scrappy just woke up. This is a miracle." Prayers worked, one tweet read. "I need an update now. Is he talking? Is he okay? Someone tell us something," another fan posted. But inside Scrappy's hospital room, things were still fragile.